Well, just about every day I try to consume a probiotic. And sometimes that's yogurt, a lot of times actually, but almost every day I try to have some kombucha. I'm sure you've heard of this. It's pretty popular nowadays. This is a store-bought brand, of course. But like most things I run across in my life, I always ask myself, hey, can I do that at home? Can I make it? But since I'm a beer brewer, I'm thinking this is not too far of a stretch since kombucha is really just slightly fermented tea. So we're going to give it a try. We're going to find out, since this is the first time I'm going to try making kombucha at home. Well, the first step, of course, let's make some teas. So what I'm going to do is take a quart of water and pour it into my medium saucepan here. And as always, I spill some on the counter. And then I'm just going to use what I have laying around. In this case, I'm going to use 3 bags of green tea. We'll put it into the water, let it boil, and then let it cool to room temperature. And there we go. We'll just let that cool off. And then the next step was we'll add some sugar and we'll take it from there. All right, so it's room temperature. So I'm just going to take these tea bags out of here, drain them off a little. Not that important that we get that right. Dispose of them. And then what we'll do now is get ourselves about 1/3 of a cup of sugar and put in here and dissolve it. We'll just kind of get this out. This doesn't have to be super precise like baking does. Anyway, just throw that in there. And you could have done this also when it was a lot warmer. It would have been easier to dissolve, but it doesn't really matter. At room temperature, it's going to go pretty quick. You're basically making a sweet tea. Get that all nice and dissolved. All right, now this is the container I'm going to use. Just the first thing I saw, basically. I like the fact that it has a wide mouth on it. We'll be covering that with either a coffee filter or a dish towel, basically, or even paper towels or cheesecloth. I don't have that laying around. And let's just see how I do with this pour. Oh, yay. And of course, the batch I made is completely dependent on how much of this kombucha I want and the vessel that I chose. So I've got a relatively small one. I'm not making a whole lot of kombucha here, but that's basically it. Now what I'm going to do next is add a starter kit. And to clarify, you can get a starter kit. In other words, you can get the active culture online. Some people refer to a SCOBY. A SCOBY is basically just a disc of what looks to be like gooey substance that you would add into here. I don't have one of those, but I can make one, and we'll get one eventually out of this. What I'm going to do is use the raw, organic, live, store-bought kombucha, and I have basically just shy of a cup of this left, and I'm going to add that to the mix. Now this does have a cherry flavoring to it. I'm not really too concerned about that at this point. Really what I'm doing is taking the culture that's still left in here, pouring it into there, and it's going to go yum, 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 yum. You just gave me a lot of cool things to eat, and eventually we'll slightly ferment that sweet tea. It will take a while, however, weeks. All right, so it's in my storage container. Now what I want to do is cover it. I do want air to get in there. What I don't want is off flavors, which that would mean unwanted bacteria that might float and land in here, or yeast. I don't want fruit flies to get in here. This is proving to be a challenge. I'll get it on there. There we go. Just a rubber band and a paper towel. You could use a tea towel. You could use real cheesecloth if you wanted. And there you go. Well, here it is. I have it in its container. It's covered. And now the hard part, patience. So this is going to take a while, since I didn't start with a disc of slime, basically, or a SCOBY, but I did use an active culture. This will eventually grow into a SCOBY, but it'll take a while for that to happen, maybe as much as a month. So just putting it in a relatively dark place, out of the way, without a lot of air currents. Room temperature somewhere in the 70s will work just fine. You don't really want to take the top of this off, but you can certainly peek at it from time to time. And it'll be very obvious once this starts to happen what's happening. And the good news is, once you form that disc, that mother, if you will, you can keep using it again and again and again, and it'll keep fermenting any sweet tea you give it. So we'll obviously have to check back in with this a little bit later.